So glad to see so many of you still here this morning. For those who missed out on the fun last night, we're going to have Mike Marchant come give a rendition of, no, just kidding. It was pretty amazing. We had a good time. So it is great to be here again, wrapping things up this morning. In case you looked at the program, looked at the website, looked at whatever else, and are wondering, well, wait a second, we heard from Alan a whole bunch, where's Seth? Seth was supposed to be kicking things off this morning with our welcome. Seth is the chair of the Carequality Board of Directors. Unfortunately, called me on Friday and had a whole bunch of other stuff going on and was unable to make it this week. So Seth wishes his best, wishes that he could be here, and I will be running everything this morning without Seth here to help out. Huge thank you once again to all of our sponsors. We've had some pretty awesome breakfasts, lunches, snacks, puppies, coffees, everything else. So it has been great. Our agenda for today, I am obviously doing both the welcome and the opening remarks and the state of the framework, so I'll be up here for a bit. And then we'll go from there, and I probably won't take as much time as on there. I want to, well, we'll see how much questions and stuff we have at the end, but one of the things that at least I heard from our unconference sessions yesterday is that people wished we had more time. So we have an hour slated for today's and may even wrap up in here a little bit early since we'll just be jumping right into stuff to make sure we have plenty of time for today. I heard a lot of great feedback about yesterday's. Hopefully the same was true in all of the various unconference sessions you all went to. I'll cover what all the topics for today are when we get to that point, but we've got 4 more sessions today and are looking forward to some great discussions in each of those. That will lead us into a break to get whatever snacks and things are available and get back in here where we will have an unconference FOMO summary. Again, one of the things that we heard last year was that folks had a hard time picking which of the unconference sessions to go to and then felt that they missed out on the discussion from the ones they couldn't make it to. This year, being there were so many topics, did this multiple times, we are going to give a breakdown of some of the high-level things that were discussed in all of the sessions for those who were not able to attend every single session. I don't think that anybody was able to attend all of the sessions. That would have been remarkable. So we'll talk about what was discussed in each of those sessions, and then we'll wrap things up. So from there, just jumping in as we're wrapping up Carequality specifically and looking at that this morning, I want to recognize the amazing Carequality team. Small but mighty with a lot of work that we do. Bill, Chris, Soli's running around somewhere. It is a small team, but this is a great team to work with. You've seen several of us up on stage today, and Soli has been running around furiously with microphones and everything else. So it is a great team to work with, and I'll say all of you as well. Like, we hear the phrase, it takes a village to whatever the thing is that you're talking about with a village. But in reality, I mean, interoperability is a major team sport. We would not be able to solve this without all of you. Without the team that I've got, I couldn't solve this on my own. The 4 of us couldn't solve this. It is a team effort. And so all of you are a huge part of solving all of this interoperability and all the great things that we've been seeing in Carequality and will continue to see as we all work together to improve interoperability across the country. So I want to recognize Carequality does have a lot of volunteers involved and representing Carequality, helping things run smoothly. Several of our members of the board of directors were here this week. I'm not sure if anyone is still here this morning. Is Paul here this morning? I think Paul might have had to already take off. The board of directors is awesome. I love working with my board. Again, Seth is the chair of the board and was not able to make it here today, but sends his regards and hopes to be able to be with us all next year. The Carequality Steering Committee is, as you can see, a much larger group, and we have great diverse representation, and the Steering Committee is the group that is responsible for the governance of the Carequality framework. So for those who are less familiar with Carequality and how exactly everything works, hopefully some of you were able to attend the pre-conference session about what is Carequality and learn a little bit more about it there, along with some great jokes that you all missed out on if you didn't attend. But the steering committee is the governing body that oversees the Carequality framework. It is a group of volunteers, and they are, again, just an amazing group to work with. The steering committee is ultimately the body that approves any sort of changes to the Carequality policies, the governance structure, the framework documents, the implementation guides. The steering committee is the body that those things go through and have to approve it. It is a consensus organization with a lot of work from the implementers who were involved, and a lot of great work from the steering committee to help keep things running. And then the advisory council. Again, you can see the list here keeps getting bigger. Luckily, this is the last of the lists because they keep getting larger every single time. The advisory council is intentionally a much larger group of representatives, and the advisory council, as the name implies, advises up to the steering committee. The advisory council is often more involved in things that are going on with work groups. We have some different discussions with the advisory council with this larger group, and make recommendations up to the steering committee, who ultimately are the ones that approve any of those recommendations, changes to policies, things like that. Again, just an amazing group to work with. And as you can see, there are a few new names. We just wrapped up the annual advisory council election period. And we had, so all of these, for the steering committee and the advisory council in particular, they're 2-year terms. We don't have any term limits, so we do have some folks who have been serving on both for many, many, many years, and great to have that continued leadership. But we try to be about roughly half and half of the terms ending every year. So we have about half end every year on 2-year terms for everybody. So this year we had 14 seats available for the advisory council, and we had 30 applicants. So a lot of people wanting to be involved makes it very difficult. For those that were involved in the nominating committee, it was a very, very difficult review this year, and then taking things back to the steering committee for some of those final decisions. But again, just a huge thank you to all of those who are involved, and the representation that we have, and the interest from those who want to be involved in helping move things forward with Carequality. And on that, I do want to give some specific recognition to the chair and vice chair of the steering committee, to the co-chairs of the advisory council, and I have some fancy awards here. If I could have Dr. Stephen Lane from Health Gorilla, who is the chair of the steering committee, Rob Klotwijk from EPIC, who is the vice chair of the steering committee, Dr. Holly Miller from MedAllies, one of the co-chairs of the advisory council, and Michael Marchant from UC Davis, who is the other co-chair of the advisory council. If I could have the 4 of you all walk up here to the stage, I have some fancy awards for you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It sure does. Thank you. A nice big heavy block of glass that is now covered in my fingerprints for you to take home on the plane.
Alan, it is an honor to serve.
Thank you.
TSA don't take it.
Yeah, hopefully you can get that through TSA.
Thank you, sir. It's very
Blunt object.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, just an amazing group to work with. It is an honor to be able to know and work with all of the folks on these various councils, with all of you that are here. And we've got a lot of stuff to continue working on together. So looking at 2023 and some of the things that we've had going on over the course of the year, still a bit left of the year to go, though we've got coming right up into the holiday season, so we'll see how much actually happens the rest of the year. We're at that time of the year, but we've had a lot going on this year. For the first time ever, for those that were involved, it was pretty exciting. I've heard a lot of great feedback and interest for upcoming year. Carequality sponsored an interoperability showcase demo at HIMSS, and that may not sound like the most exciting thing, but it was a pretty awesome demo. We had a lot of great implementers involved. We showed exchange between multiple organizations using some queries. We had image exchange. We had patient access to their own information. It was really great. I've heard continued feedback about that demo over the course of the year. Dr. Holly Miller wrote the clinical scenario and ran most of the demonstration and is working on some things for upcoming HIMSS 2024. So thank you, Holly. I can't hear you. And Soli, where is Soli? Oh, Soli's back here. Soli got up at the beginning of nearly every single one of those demos and gave an introduction to Carequality over and over every hour for an entire week, and it was pretty impressive. We wrapped up, and we've had several panels about all of these topics, but we wrapped up a major round of updates to the Carequality Framework Policies document. The Carequality Framework Policies document is a policy document, as the name implies, that includes policies that are overarching policies across the entire framework. So we have implementation guides for query-based document exchange and FHIR and electronic case reporting and et cetera, that define how to implement and use the specific use cases and constraints and requirements within those use cases. The framework policies document includes all of the overarching policies that aren't tied to any specific implementation guide or specific use case, but apply across the board. And so we made a major round of updates, three different work groups that have been going for quite a while in some cases, all wrapped up around the same time, and so we grouped all of those into a single round of updates. One of the lessons learned from 2023 is that we should probably never again try to wrap so many updates into a single round of updating a document, because it got quite intense, as we had some of these policies were pretty straightforward and could have just pushed out a whole lot earlier, but we said, well, let's just wrap them all together and push out one update to the document, because it's not an easy process to update this document, but I think it would have been a lot easier to just update it 3 times versus the one that we did. But we got through it and made 3 major updates to this document. Again, some of the policy updates that you heard about earlier this week around patient access, and there is actively a early adopter group meeting to leverage some of those new policies for patient access. Care coordination, it was an entirely new definition, new term that was defined, and some of the requirements that go with it, and also looking for folks interested in being an early adopter of that care coordination and proving out that and any additional work that needs to come from it. And then on behalf of is an interesting one that we continue to monitor how that is going, make updates, and we'll be watching to see where updates are needed. Ultimately, the intention of that, for those that aren't familiar with it, is in Carequality, one of the key tenets, the fundamental principles of Carequality is reciprocity. Right? If you request information for the purpose of treatment, you have to share information for the purposes of treatment with everyone. You connect to Carequality and you share with everyone else that's participating, and obviously applicable law and all of those fun legal things, right? If there's a consent requirements or whatever else the case might be, but generally speaking, you want information for treatment, you have to share information for treatment in return. We have a couple of exceptions that have existed for a while around that, and on behalf of was added as a new exception. And the intention is, if a provider is, primarily documenting in their chosen EHR system, but also uses, a third party, data visualization or something like that app. And that app needs information to pull in and do whatever it does, but it's not the source of any new information. Nothing is entered into that system, nothing is created in that system. And so those apps generally are able to point back to the provider's EHR and say, I don't need to respond because the provider using this app responds over here instead. So we do have some organizations rolling that out. It was definitely something that was needed. We are monitoring, seeing how that goes as those roll out and what additional updates are needed to that policy. And again, for both patient access and care coordination, same thing. We'll be watching those, working through the early adopter groups and seeing what updates are needed on those to keep those moving forward. We also made some updates to the technical trust policy document that largely went along with patient access, but that is another Carequality element is what we call these documents, and so had to go through a lengthy process of making those updates, steering committee final approval. We also have largely rolled out the R4 directory. We are still finalizing things to have that completely production ready. For those who are implementers and working with the directory today, the directory is a STU3-ish with a whole lot of customization directory, fire directory. Ironically, it is on Ruby servers, and we had the Ruby conference here with us earlier this week. So not intentional at all, but I know we had some folks, Eric Heflin here, who was very involved in the early directory, spent some time over at the Ruby conference as well, hopefully told them all the problems we've had with it in the directory. But we are in the process of completely moving off of that to fully compliant, happy servers, fire happy R4. And we have that set up in a dev and stage environment, working on getting implementers moved to that in production here very shortly. We made some major updates on the website, which again doesn't sound like a super exciting thing, but there was quite a bit there that we are still updating, specifically the implementer page, and that is actually going to be one of the topics of an unconference session because we want to show what that now looks like and get ideas for what you all would like to see on there as information about all of the implementers and who's doing what and things like that. And so that is the next bullet there is the new implementer page, specifically with some increased transparency around who the implementers are, who their connections are, and what types of use cases they're doing, what things they're working on. And then obviously the Carequality team has been heavily involved in all of the work of TEFCA, which is largely taking all the work that we've done in Carequality and pulling a lot of that over into the government-sponsored initiative. So we've talked a whole lot about that this week as well, but that has taken a very large chunk of the Carequality team's time, as we now have 7 candidate QHINs, several of those getting ready for designation here in just a few weeks. Some additional applicant QHINs in the process, and a whole lot of stuff that we've been updating over the course of the year with more to come. So a lot going on in 2023. Our rate of growth over 2023 has continued. I don't know if you can see I should make the text larger on the bottom there, but the green line is the number of monthly retrieved documents. And this is showing January across several years going back to 2017. And then the blue line is the number of active entries in the directory. So you can see those go pretty well together. As the directory gets larger, the number of documents exchanged also gets larger, and that generally makes sense. We get reporting, so Carequality, we don't have any of the technology ourselves. We're not a network, we're not an HIE, we don't see any of this exchange. And so implementers report their numbers to us on a monthly basis the month after the fact. So the latest numbers that we have right now are for September of 2023. October's numbers are due by the end of November. And in September of 2023, there were more than 600, almost 640 million clinical documents exchanged just in the month of September alone. So huge volumes of exchange. And you can see, obviously the scale's a little off because I don't know how to say all of these were a year scale, but now January 2023 to September was not, so the line's a little skewed, probably should be a little flatter. But it's huge change from January, in large part because Commonwealth, one of our Carequality implementers, started bringing live the federal agencies in August, DoD, VA, and Coast Guard. And so we had a huge spike when we look at the month over month. And looking at it yearly here obviously increases the curve quite a bit. So growth continues to go up. We will see what that looks like throughout the rest of the year as a lot of those implementers organizations continue to roll out and exchange more and more information. And then looking at what's in store for 2024. A lot of focus, and the steering committee continues to have these discussions, as does the advisory council. There's going to be a lot of focus on alignment with TEFCA. Obviously, there's a lot going on both sides there, and want to make sure that those who are participating in one or the other or both don't have to do a whole bunch of duplicative or worse, competing work between the two. We're going to have a lot of focus on raising the bar across implementers and trust and diligence in the community. And you heard several times on some of the panels today that the same is true in TEFCA. The T in TEFCA is for trusted. Carequality is a trust framework as well. And so we want to make sure that we have trust within the community. We have begun looking at some things with onboarding processes. If you are an implementer, that is something that has been requested and hopefully you've shared. If not, we're going to be reaching out again to get that information from everybody. But we're gathering right now what all of the implementers' onboarding processes are. What do implementers do or know or gather about their customers? And when the implementer is an EHR vendor, it's probably pretty straightforward. Their customers are all very similar. But we have a growing number of what we refer to as service providers. Your Particle and No2 and Health Gorilla and Redox and SureScripts and a whole bunch of others, Zen and all of the others that are not themselves an EHR vendor, but provide connectivity to EHR vendors or to provider organizations. And making sure that folks know that even if, as one implementer doesn't necessarily know who all of another implementer's customers are, they know what that implementer does for their onboarding processes and is able to then trust the customers of that other implementer. So that is likely going to lead to some work groups that will be chartered throughout 2024 and creating a new policy document as we set some more specific baseline requirements around that onboarding to ensure that we have some of that consistency and trust. We'll be looking at additional reporting. Again, we're getting a lot of information. There was an unconference session on that yesterday around reporting. We are gathering a whole lot of information. There's a lot more that would be good to know, and there's probably more that we can and should be doing with the information that we already have. So we'll be looking at some of that as well. Lots of internal processes to improve and make sure that we're managing things on the internal side, again, for knowing what implementers are doing, how implementers work, and being able to engender that trust across the community. And then focus that has come up a few times is around patients, privacy, choice, security, as we have just more and more information being shared, ensuring that that is there for the patients whose information is being shared. And continued use case expansion. Now, not all of these are necessarily going to be a focus or a work group throughout the year. But we are actively, as I just said previously, working on some things with patient access and care coordination. Image exchange was an unconference session yesterday. We've got a lot of great vendors that have been involved in getting image exchange to where it is today, and we want to get it over the finish line, get some of that exchange actually happening so that we can then continue to iterate and improve upon it. And we have a couple of vendors that are very close, just finalizing some last transaction testing, and then need to get into the directory and start seeing some of those diagnostic images exchanged through Carequality. Electronic case reporting. We've had this implementation guide out for a while. Actually, we got it out really quickly. I mean, this is one of the successes that we've seen in the community due to COVID. We created that implementation guide, got it through the whole process, approved it incredibly fast early on in COVID. And it is being used quite a bit. For those that, when we talk about the numbers and information that's being exchanged, we generally focus on the query-based document exchange because that's where most of the numbers are. We are gathering numbers for those implementers who rely on electronic case reporting as well, and we have over 1 million electronic case reports being submitted monthly through Carequality. And if all we were doing was electronic case reporting, that would be a pretty impressive number. Again, it would be very small. You wouldn't even see the line if I put it on the graph with the query-based documents, where we have 640 million in September. But 1 million electronic case reports on a monthly basis is still very impressive, and we want to continue to improve that. Focus on getting all of our implementers live, leveraging that functionality, and add to it. Right now, there are a couple of options for using XDR messaging or using direct messaging for submitting those. And we've been having some discussions with APHL, the AIMS platform, for adding in an option for FHIR for electronic case reporting. So that may be something that we're looking at and getting updates this year. Obviously, FHIR in general has been a big focus. We are wrapping up some updates right now to that implementation guide based on testing and things that we did throughout 2023. So there are going to be updates coming on that. And then push notifications is a use case that exists today that nobody is using. For those that were in the non-query-based document exchange unconference session yesterday, we talked a whole lot about push notifications and electronic case reporting, along with some other push-based messaging. And so I think that there's some work that folks are interested in doing in all of that and improving push-based messaging and getting push notifications in use. And then more to come with TEFCA. As you all know, that is going to be a big thing throughout 2024 as we will have some actual designated QHINs and continue, again, back to the top, making sure that we align things between TEFCA and Carequality moving forward. And then I want to recognize our Carequality implementers. We have some new fancy slides here to go along with the update to the website. So if you can see, all right, we have logos here for each of the use cases, and the intention is that as implementers go live on various use cases, we'll have the little logo there so that you can actually see. 'Cause that's one of the tricky things on the previous implementer page and previous slide. Just because someone's an implementer doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the same use case you are. So making sure that everyone understands which use cases other implementers are using. And we have enough live implementers that we have to put it on a couple of slides. And hope to see the little icons across the top of all of these implementers increase as we again, roll out some of those additional use cases. And we have a whole lot of coming soon. Soon is in major air quotes. As you may know, some of these implementers have been coming soon for a lot longer than you would generally think soon means. But they are in process, working through getting things up and running on their side. Again, you can see several of these are imaging vendors that we are hoping to have some of them live here very soon for clinical image exchange, and any of them that do not have a little logo means that they've recently signed the Carequality Connected Agreement, become a Carequality implementer, but are still working through the application process, so aren't yet approved for any specific use case. So they'll get one of those little icons once they're approved for the use case that they want to implement. And with that, I think we can, if there are, I think we've got Chris in the back here with a microphone if we want to take any questions from folks around Carequality, the direction things are going, and then ideally wrap up a few minutes early so that we can get over to unconference sessions, which are supposed to begin in, I believe, 15 minutes, and give ourselves plenty of time for those discussions. But are there any questions before I give all the topics and we break to unconference sessions? If not, that's also fine. It's been a long week. It's been good, but it's been a long one. stand in awkward silence for just a few more
Just wanted
seconds.
to say I appreciate you. Hi.
Thanks, Chris. Awesome. Well, if there are no questions, all of your questions have been answered over the course of this week. So with that, let's take a look at the unconference sessions and break out and have some great discussions in there. So we have 4 sessions going on this morning. We have engendering trust in the community is going to be right here in the ballroom. Working as a community, which this is largely around troubleshooting, coordinating issues, things like that in a community of organizations, is going to be in Pacific C. The Carequality R4 directory, looking at what we're doing with the directory and what all you think should be improved or added to the directory, will be over in Pacific D. And then the new implementer website is going to be in Pacific E. And again, that's going to be looking at the updates that we've made for how implementers are represented on the website and the types of things that you all would like to show about yourselves if you are an implementer or know about other implementers on the website. So Pacific C, D, and E are all out and around the corner for anyone that didn't go that way yesterday. And we will break out, pick your favorite topic. There is a networking break immediately following this time to give everyone time to wrap up. And I believe we will be back in this room. I don't have my thing on me, but I think it's 11:15. Looking, is that Hera, is that right? 11:15 should be on your schedules. So that gives us an hour and 45 minutes to break, get to your session, talk, have a break again. Should be wrapping up the unconference sessions around 11, and then we'll all be back in here at 11:15. Thank you.